And I think we're live on Facebook now. I'm so excited to be with you guys again for Skills Not Pills movement. And I am your host, Carrie Hummingbird. And, Skills Not Pills movement is an intentional community designed to support people in their healing process and to realize that there are many ways to heal and beyond just the medical doctors and pills, and that there's actually solutions that can lead you towards a better way of living that doesn't require you to take pills the rest of your life. And I love to interview people who have had amazing experiences that share their own journeys with finding their solution and the challenges that they had to go through in order to heal from whatever life threw at them. And today, really delighted to have Tippy Felzenstein with us. Welcome, Tippy.
Hi, thank you.
So Tippy is an author, a talk show host, and a motivator, and she specializes in overcoming difficult situations and healing through storytelling. So how she got started on this path, we're going to hear about it in a little bit, but she had an accident, a near fatal car accident that really left her in a lot of pain and her whole body broken and needing to heal. And she's written a memoir about this journey, and she's got the topic is Wake Up and Plan for Roses. So I really look forward to hearing what you have to share with us, Tippy. I'm really pretty impressed by what you've been through and want to hear more about your story. So tell us more.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm really happy to share what happened to me, because basically the idea is that you don't have to have your bones broken to figure out what to do, because I've been through it, so I can share what happened to me. But let me take it a little bit back. Before that accident, that car accident was on my 40th birthday. So yes, I'm over 40. But before that accident, I had a problem with my daughter when she was born. She came home from the hospital with an ear infection and with rashes all over the place. So obviously an ear infection, I'm going to get antibiotics, which amoxicillin is the weakest antibiotic they're going to give a 1-week-old baby. And for the next 3 years, she was literally 10 days on antibiotics, 3 days off, new ear infection, again, cycle for 3 whole years. And her rashes were not getting any better. It was getting worse. And so after 3 years, I walked into the doctor's office and he said, well, we've tried everything. It looks like we're going to have to make a hole inside her ear to drain out the liquid from her hair. And I said, you know what? You cut a freaking hole in your ear because I've had it. And I've got to find a different way, which I had no idea what that meant, because, you always trust your doctor. And that was my first wake-up call. And thank God I had that, because in my car accident, if I didn't have the previous experience to guide me, I probably would have definitely been addicted to painkillers by now. I may not have been able to walk at all. And if I would have walked, it would have been in a lot of pain all the time, because you look at people that have had a broken part of the vertebrae, my T11 is broken, they can't ever be without pain or surgeries if they start with painkillers to begin with. And so I'm very lucky to be able to have that experience so that I can relate to it.
Yeah, absolutely. That you're able to relate to this painkiller, situation. I think that is the solution that most people are given at the doctor. Is like, here's this painkiller, take this. But we have a crisis right now in our country of, opioids, and people actually abusing opioids and actually taking them. I'm learning some things from my 19-year-old son, who does a lot of research on the internet and has a lot of friends and things I don't necessarily want to know. But, that people are using these actually as like a drug almost too, like mixing it with something and drinking it, and then it produces some kind of high, or, so this is an epidemic that's happening with these painkillers, and yeah, they're prevalent. They're available like everywhere, and yet we're building a wall to keep the drugs out, of the United States, on the border of Mexico. We're building a wall to keep the drugs out. And I was listening to something last night about the president talking about keep these drugs out. And I'm thinking, what drugs? Because we consume 80% of the world's pharmaceuticals in the United States. And so we are drug central in terms of like drugs being used. So tell us more about your personal experience too, because you were also given this as a way of coping with the pain that you were in. You were probably in a lot of pain from your car crash.
Yes. So first of all, I have had the American Medical Association, the AMA, say in no uncertain terms that I cannot give any medical advice without being a doctor. And honestly, there are good doctors out there. And if it wasn't for the doctors, I probably would not be alive. They did save my life. So there's a place for doctors. But the thing is that you really have to be your own doctor first. You know your body, you know your life. I know that if you shoot, what's that stuff they give you in hospitals for painkillers? Really heavy duty. They put it right into your veins. It's not opium. It's
well, I'm not.
the stuff they give you to get off of heroin.
Yeah, morphine.
Morphine, thank you.
That one. Okay.
I totally black out drug names from my brain completely.
Yeah, I don't do all that. So yeah.
Right. So that's the first thing they pump you up with. And I was in excruciating pain, and it's typical if you're in pain, they want to give you something that should take away the pain. But for me, because I had, I think, over 68 fractures just from my neck down to the top of my legs, the middle part of my body. My lungs were collapsed. So talking, breathing, sneezing was like dying. And I was in so much pain that didn't do anything. It did not take away the pain. It just made me want to throw up, which made it worse. And it made me want to sleep. And so I asked them to take it out. And it took me literally 6 days to get approval just to take that out of my system in the hospital. Like, no, but you need it. You're in pain.
Okay,
no,
6 days. I'm sorry, 6 days for you to get approval to have them remove painkillers from your body that you didn't want in your body. So they're having more authority over your body than you had over your own body.
They do. They do. Well, the nurse says she has no authority to remove it because the doctor has to approve it. The doctor who's in charge of my case happens to be away for the weekend, so nobody can get permission. Then when he gets back, he's not going to just randomly say, do it without coming and examining me. And he's got 20 other patients that he has to. So it's a process for them to be able to do it without liability. 6 days of lying there saying, please take this out of my body. Please take. Finally, they took it out. And honestly, the pain did not get worse or better. It was still just as excruciating. And that was the first step for me. Now, I'm not saying that everybody that is in excruciating pain should take that out of the system right away. Definitely not saying that. But I'm saying try taking it out and see if you're not feeling any more pain than you are without it. Because sometimes it will not make a difference.
Well, and I think that right there is a mind shift, around, because people are assuming, they're making the assumption that the painkiller is actually making it better because the doctor said that the painkiller was making it better. But in fact, to test that theory, like you did, you were brave and you said, I'm going to test that theory because something in me is saying it's not making any difference and I don't want the chemicals in my body.
Right. I was still in pain, basically. And I wanted to throw up all the time. So the fact that I was still in pain with so much painkillers inside my system and I wanted to throw up all the time, I said, what can I lose if I try to take it out? And that's really the key. Try to do it. And if it works for you, then that poison is not in your body. And that poison in itself stops you from healing instead of helping you heal. Here your body wants to heal, and this poison constantly interferes. So you're sicker for a longer time. Your bones don't heal as quickly as they would. You want to try to heal your body, not to heal your body, but to help your body heal as much as possible when you're in pain and when you don't feel well. And anything that interferes with that, sometimes it's necessary, but try to see if it may not be necessary.
That's really interesting because that is also along the lines of uh, you know, avoiding the pain, like of trying to avoid pain actually prolongs it.
Wow, that's like saying such a huge thing. That's brilliant because you don't always want to avoid the pain. Sometimes you want to go through the pain into the to get rid of it. And it's sometimes it's the only way. It's like, how do you avoid labor pains? By being a zombie and then not being able to give birth? That doesn't help.
You know, actually, it's so interesting you brought that up because I was having a conversation with a good friend recently, and she was saying that on her first birth, she had a lot of painkillers. And the second birth, she chose to not do that. She chose to go the natural route. And what she ended up experiencing was a profound shift in her consciousness because of moving through the pain of childbirth. And now I never experienced that because I had I had two C-sections. But what she described to me was like pretty amazing for me to hear as a woman who didn't get to experience that.
Right.
That she really honestly felt like her first time not experiencing it, her second time experiencing the pain, that it brought her to like a new level of understanding and a deepness, like a depth to her motherhood to go through that pain and that process rather than trying to avoid it.
Right. Like you said, the more you try to run away from it, the worse you really make it. Whether you take painkillers or not, trying to avoid it is not the answer. It's like when you have a problem and you don't deal with it, does the problem get better? No, it's going to grow and you're going to have to deal with it sooner or later.
You're
Right.
going to have to deal with, unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with it. And I think the hardest part is I just know most of my pain in my life has been emotional pain. It's been on the emotional spectrum because I'm emotionally centered. For those of you out there who've never heard of human design type, it's a really great way of understanding yourself, and you could look it up, human design type, and I get my chart from jovianarchive.com. But what it shows you is that you're designed in a certain way, and some people are intellectually centered and they have less feelings. They're just like by design that way. They're not cold fishes. They just don't experience the depth of emotion that somebody who's emotionally centered is. And when you experience emotionally centered depth, it can be very intense. You know, it can be like a roller coaster ride inside of you. And so your whole life experience is about learning how to cope with that. And so I used to try to distract from it. That's what I'm trying to say, because in our culture, in our world, like it's like taboo to have emotional experience, or like it's bad, or like it's projected as to be like, there's something wrong with you or something, where it's no, maybe that's just some people, if you look at a human design type, are designed to have an emotional experience while others have an intellectually stimulated experience. But if you listen to the doctors, they're like, here, take this pill, make it stop. you know
Exactly.
but it doesn't make it stop. It just like suppresses it to the point where it numbs you so you can't feel it, but it's still there. And that's what I think is the same, I'm suspecting, because I haven't had like intense pain in my life physically, but you have experienced it. So is it the same for you? In your experience, it just sort of numbed it, but it didn't make it go away.
Right. And for me, it didn't really numb it, but I assume that it does for people. I am an empath, so emotional. So if you have emotional pain and you're around me, I feel your emotional pain, which is even worse than just dealing with your own. So I do know what emotional pain feels like. And naturally, I had to do what you did, because the way I tried to fix it at first, when I had no idea that I was being empathetic that way, I tried to, that's how I became a life coach. I tried to make everybody not be in pain so that I wouldn't feel their pain. So I worked so hard trying to find a solution. If I would see you in pain, trying to find a solution for your pain, and you can't. First of all, people resented that you're trying to tell them what to do and you really don't know the whole picture. You just know that they're in pain. And second of all, you can't live other people's life, especially when they're not asking for help. I can help anybody get out of pain, but not when they don't want to. So it's like making
Yeah,
you
when they
get out
want
of
to
pain.
stay
You
in the
better
pain.
stop. Right. You better stop being in pain because it bothers me.
Or like when they deny the pain and try to project it out like, oh, it's not there. Or, and as an empath, you can also feel people's intentions, but then they'll deny it because there's a lot of judgment around, you know, like everyone wants to be a good person, you know? So
Well, everyone is kind of a good person in
already
a
a good
sense.
person. It's just that we all have behaviors and reactions. Like
Right.
I still have behaviors and reactions that I don't like, that I don't wish I had, that I wish I would have had better control, of my emotional experience in the moment. That's just part of it. And but to distract from it, or to deny it, or to numb it, or to try to put a pill on it, it doesn't really take it away. So tell us about your experience, though. So you also are aware of emotional pain, which, wow, you double whammy. Then you had like physical pain in your body. So what did you learn from the experience of healing your physical pain?
So that's exactly why I had no choice. I had to learn how to deal with it because you know what it's like to have emotional pain. Put that together with physical pain. It's either you die or you learn how to deal with it in a different way, because taking the pills is just not going to cut it. It's just not going to do anything. So by being forced to deal with it in a certain way, I was a little bit too dramatic, maybe. But I learned that that one of the things that you just said, also, you don't understand how huge it is. When I look at someone and I see that they're in pain, 99% of the time they will deny it. Not because they're lying, because they can't even admit it to themselves. And that's another thing used to drive me crazy. I can see that you can't sleep because of it. Why are you saying you're not in pain? I sleep fine. I just wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning and I'm okay. I mean, denial's like crazy. So what I learned from it is that you don't need the painkillers. You don't need any medicine if you're going to do something else about it. Not like one of those religions where you sit around and pray to get healthy because you don't believe in doctors. That's stupid. If you're not going to do something else, if you're not going to heal yourself in a different way, go to the doctor. Take the pills. That's what you have to do. But if you have a way, or if you have the will to try alternatives, definitely try it, because for me, what I've seen with the clients that I work with, 90% of the time, a different way will work. Maybe not even 100%, but it will work to a certain extent where you can modify. Let's say you're taking 10 pills and now you're down to 3. That makes a big difference too.
Yeah,
So
because also it affects your clarity, I think.
totally
I'm not
affects
on
your
any
clarity.
medication now. Let's just say that. Like I used to be on one of those pills, I kept changing them out because they stopped working. Because
Right.
they never really worked to begin with. You
Right.
just thought
Right.
they worked, and so then you stopped believing in them and they stopped working. You have to do another one. So, so there is that. I played that little dance for 14 years with the SSRIs and kept switching around little, and I'm not going to say any of the brands because I don't want to get in any trouble, but like I
Right.
tried that method, and every time I would try to go off of it, I would just cry endlessly. And I was like, well, I can't get off because then I'll cry. Well, why was I crying? Because I was still in a relationship that I needed to leave. Like I was
Right.
still in this circumstance and trying to make something work that was actually not serving my growth.
Right.
And I needed a spiritual path, and that relationship was preventing me from getting on a spiritual path. So the deep sadness within me was for a reason. It was a deep sadness of not having my spiritual path. And
Right.
so like taking pills to avoid a spiritual path is, in my opinion, didn't work out very well for me. Maybe it's a good approach for others. Didn't work out well for me. So, talk a little bit about, though, like recovering from body pain, because how is body pain different from emotional pain? Because I haven't had a tremendous amount of body pain, but what was that experience? Because you broke like so many bones in your body. Like how many bones were broken? You had to heal all those bones.
I had about 68 fractures.
68 fractures. Wow.
Approximately. They weren't 100% sure, even though they took 1,000 x-rays and CAT scans and MRIs. They weren't sure exactly because my lungs collapsed and I had fluid all over the place. So it was hard to really pin it down, but it really doesn't matter. But the truth is, emotional pain is much, much worse than physical pain.
Wow.
Much, much worse. Emotional pain is debilitating, and there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide from it. Physical pain is something that you can deal with. For example, with all those fractures that I had and all the pain that I had, if I was lying really still and not move anything, it was zero pain. There was
Ah.
no pain at all. You can't do that to emotional pain.
No,
You
it goes
can't
where
just lie there and
anybody
say,
wants.
okay, go away. You have to go on a spiritual path. Really, that's the key. But for someone to go through both at the same time, that's overwhelming. That's overwhelming. So I'm
So
at the
how
point
did you
now.
coach yourself in those moments? Like, what were some of the things that you coached yourself with when you were lying there and you're like, okay, don't move because the physical pain starts if it moves, but you know the emotional pain's still going. So like, what were you doing with yourself inside of you during all of that?
So I was lucky because I had done a lot of work on myself beforehand, and I read a lot of books because I'm a life coach, and because I've been trying to heal everybody else's problems. I was a psych major in college. I was mental health classes all over the place. Every book that read about how to heal your emotional pain, I probably read it. I didn't really apply it because I didn't really have to. I wasn't forced. So I had all that information running around in my brain. So when I was lying there trying to figure out what the heck am I going to do now, that information started popping up. And also another thing that helped me was in the ambulance, when my heart stopped beating for those few seconds, and I realized how that accident was caused, which was basically something I caused unconsciously. I made that happen, which is basically most of our life. We make it happen unconsciously. But I saw it so clearly right in front of my face. It was like someone putting a movie in front of me and telling me, look, this is how you did this. And if this is how I did it, then it's very clear on how I have to undo it. So it
So
was
what you're
easier.
talking about now, to be clear for people, I think, let me say what I think you just said. I think what you just said was that you realized in this moment, in that moment, that your choices in your life had conspired you and brought you to the place where that accident happened. And if you had made different choices, maybe you wouldn't have had that accident.
More than that, even more than that. Yeah, that's true. Because if you go and interview people that have been in an accident, it was never people that are very happy and just had a great day and then got into an accident. It's usually people that are very stressed or suicidal, have had a really hard time in life. It's not at that moment, at the time, maybe had a fight with someone that's going through a divorce. Someone that's going through a very difficult time is a very high amount of people that are involved even in accidents to begin with. So that's true. But for me, it
That's
was even
definitely true for the kid. For when I got in my car, I got in a car accident. It wasn't
right.
that bad, but I got in one, and that was the case there.
But for me, it was even worse than that because when I had that few moments that I wasn't breathing, I saw something that I did when I was 19 that triggered this incident to happen on my 40th birthday, something that happened 21 years ago,
Wow.
which blew me away, totally blew me away.
That you could actually make that happen.
That
That
I could actually make that happen.
a choice you made at 19, your
Right,
spirit showed you was like, bam, this is why this is happening to you right now.
right. So what happened was somebody's at my door. They were supposed to be here at 2:30, so I'm trying to tell them to hang out there and wait for
Okay,
me.
just a little pause while
Yeah.
we deal with the the situation of being a working at home entrepreneur with people that don't understand that, and being on podcasts from home.
Yeah. So what happened was something crazy. When I was 19, when you're 19, 40 is very old.
It
40
seems
is
that
like
way.
a
Now that
nice,
you're there, though, you're like, I'm almost 50. I'm like, 40 was young.
40 was young, yeah. But at 19, 40 is a ripe old age. So when I was 19, I watched a movie star. I think it was Raquel Welch, and she had been 42 or 43, and she looked fantastic. She was doing yoga. Her body was amazing, like a teenager. And I remember her standing there and saying, pointing at herself and saying, if I would have known my body would look this great at 40, I would have blah, 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 whatever she said. And somehow I thought to myself, well, if I die when I'm 40, before my body looks bad, I'm good with it. Well, if I die when I'm 40, I'm good with it. And every time after that, on my 20th birthday, I would say, if I die when I'm 40, I'm okay with it. It wasn't like
Wow.
I said I want to die when I'm 40, but I put that energy out there. I put that thought out there that 40 is enough for me. On my 40th birthday, my car crashes where it seems it's totally out of my control. My brakes didn't work. My steering didn't work. How did I coordinate all that? Of course I didn't, but I did put that energy in there. It was almost like I planned it. And when I realized it, I said, wait, God, I didn't mean that. I want to die. That's not what I wanted to do.
God give you a second chance. Like, are you sure you want to die at 40? You mean
Right?
it?
But it kind of made me think that we could plan a lot more things than we think we plan. We coordinate in our subconscious a lot more than we think we have control over. And that's where my book comes from. Wake up and plan for roses. Don't plan for crazy things. Worrying is planning to destroy your life, basically.
Ooh,
Thinking any
worrying
negative
is
thoughts.
planning to destroy your life. I think that's your quote. Worrying. I'm gonna write that down. Worrying is planning to destroy your life. Oh my gosh. It's so true.
We don't even realize how true it is. And when you do realize that, that moment when you open your eyes and you realize that, that's when you start thinking about every thought that goes through your head. Like if you're hating someone, what are you really doing? Inviting the energy of hate into your life. When you're loving someone, what are you doing? Inviting the energy of love into your life. So you get more of that, a lot more of it. And love is so much more powerful that once you have one thought, it spirals out of control, and all of a sudden you're in love with everything because
Yeah,
it
it's
works so much
true.
more.
It's true. And it's also a daily practice. Like I notice that the mastery levels increase for me. Like when I get it going on, like with a certain level of mm, mastery with the circumstances I have in my life, then things intensify. So I get more challenges to practice even greater depth in my ability to process my feelings because you know, I don't know. I just feel like it's all planned out so that you get greater and greater challenges to test your ability to cope with whatever's being presented to you at the time. And, you know, especially if you're on this transformation path. I do think that there are humans on the earth who like basically didn't sign up for very challenging classes, you know, kind of in high school when you can just sign up for, you know, shop and, you know, you know, you can sign up for classes
Yeah.
that are easy to pass. I think some people took that lifetime, but that's not the lifetime that I'm in. And the lifetime that I'm in, it definitely, it's like it sometimes it feels like the vice like tightens around me, like circumstances, like they just kind of you know, and then I get to practice like being graceful with it, you know, and sometimes I'm not graceful with it, to be honest, you know, sometimes like even this morning, something that seems so silly and stupid, it ended up like triggering me, you know, to have some emotional reaction. So, and it started that wave going, and then I got to ride the wave. Like once I'm on the wave and the wave's going, I got to ride the wave. Like there's no like, I'm out of the wave. Not for an emotionally centered person. No, you're in the wave until it passes, until it's, you know, you can take actions to support yourself to ease the wave so that you're not like increasing the wave, but you're still in the wave and you're going to have to contend with it. So I know that you're also, you know what I'm talking about because you're
I
also
do know what I'm talking
centered.
about. And there is a way, there are things that you can do first thing in the morning to make that wave a little less intense. There are things you could do at night before you go to sleep to make that wave easier to surf, because you're going to have to surf it out. But to make it easier, there's things you can do first thing in the morning and last thing at night. And there's things you can do throughout the day. So there is, and that would be the pill that I would take to do those other things. And one of them would be meditating, but a specific kind of meditating. And it will ease the pain and it will make it easier to the point where it'll be a breeze. You will just say, oh yeah, I know what I got to do now. And you'll be able to do it.
Yeah, you see what you're getting at is that waking up from an alarm clock that didn't go off because it was unplugged and having your kids wake you up and then scrambling out of bed and throwing on a coat and driving them directly to school with 2 minutes of wakefulness is probably a recipe for disaster. And in fact, it was this morning. I
And I've
can't
done
do
it a
that.
million times.
I can't do that. Like, I cannot do that. If I want to show up with grace and mindfulness and the beautiful person that I am inside, I need time to adjust to being awake so that I have mindfulness around me, like a little cushion for dealing with other people who have different levels of sensitivity, if you know what I mean. Like what I notice is that in our society, we have all different levels of sensitivity. So, let's say you came from New York City.
Yes.
Then there could be some thick skin, like get a thick skin kind
Could
of
be
stuff,
either way. Could go
right?
either way.
Could go either
Either it's,
way. So,
yeah, you will
so
either you have a thick skin or your skin has been worn down pretty much.
or your skin is like gone because you just got like
Right.
abrased by everybody around you. So there's some people that don't see certain behaviors as abrasive. And everybody has a self-concept like I'm a good person. And of course, everybody's a good person. Yes, we're all souls. We're doing our best. And there's different levels of sensitivity and there's refinement. And so some actions to one person might seem like that's just fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But to another person receiving the energy of that who's more finely attuned could be like really hurtful, first thing in the morning without that buffer, So the buffer you're talking about, I definitely witnessed this morning. It would be better for me to bring my kids late to school and to get my buffer in and be like, well, chill out because I need to meditate for at least 5 minutes. I need to get centered, grounded in myself, awake. I need to splash some water on my face. I need to be present so that when I show up in the world, I've got my stuff together and I'm able to roll with no matter who's crossing my path. I don't know what they're, who they are. I don't know who they're going to be and if something they're going to do is going to be triggering, right? So if we don't have that buffer, we can't respond in a nice way, I think.
It's also painful. So you hit on so many important things that I can't even go back there. But one of the things you said is everybody is a good person or thinks they're a good person, but the road to hell is paved with good intention. And so if somebody has a good intention that really hurts you, that's wonderful that they have a good intention, but it's not helping you in any way at all.
Yeah, and especially if they won't admit like that maybe that was a little bit of see, this is the not admitting part, right?
Right. Like, you did it. No, I didn't do anything. What are you talking about?
No, it's like, okay, so the issue was a honk. Let's just take that for a second. Honking at someone in front of you because there's a little gap in the line. Right there. You see what I mean? It's like, oh, I was just trying to help you wake up. I was trying to help you like see that there was a gap. Really? Or were you being impatient? Or were you being impatient and like get out of my way? So like there is that, right? And nobody wants to admit that they were like, well, I actually just wanted you to move, because I wanted to get further or I wanted you to get out of my way, right? So there's like these, like that admitting part we talked about earlier is like the admitting, like it's hard for people to admit their actual intentions because they want to uphold like I'm a good person.
Right. So honking happens to be in New York. Since you mentioned New York, you don't drive without honking. So it almost is a requirement. You get in the car and you become this aggressive animal that honks at anything that moves because otherwise you don't know how to drive. And so it's
a different culture. Like in New York, it's like so aggressive that you have to. In Austin, in Texas, it's becoming more like that way because of all the influx, but it has been not like that actually. Like it's rude to honk in Austin. It's kind of like you honk if somebody's really out of line.
Right. And that's the way it should be. And that's the way it should be. It's just New Yorkers are very obnoxious, very rude. And so if you don't honk, they'll be, what's wrong with you? Why didn't you honk?
And so that's why I don't live in New York.
You're lucky.
I'm a sensitive person and I don't react well with aggressive energy. So when aggressive energy comes up, that really triggers me.
Right. So
I think we need to be aware that like there's certain levels of density happening on the planet at the same time, and not everybody can interact with everybody else in a beautiful way. So
exactly.
Anyway, yeah. Well, there's a lot of good tips that you provided today on coping with emotional pain, coping with physical pain. I thought it was really interesting that you said that physical pain isn't as bad as emotional pain because I was thinking, wow, physical pain really hard to deal with. Because it's in your body, but so is emotional pain. Oh, like
emotional pain is in your body, in your soul, in your surroundings, in your everything. Physical pain, your bone is broken and you deal with that bone and that's it. It's done. It's dense. It's doable. It's touchable. Emotional pain is not something you can touch and say, okay, I'm going to massage this out of my life. which helps massaging, but it's not, it's so much more, so much bigger.
It
So
is
much.
bigger, and it's sort of like hard to pinpoint sometimes, like what the root cause of it is, what's it coming from.
Right.
So
And the thing what I do with my life coaching, I stay away from trying to figure out where it came from. I work more with navigating the surf. Because at the end of the
navigating
day,
the
does it
surf.
really matter where it came from? It's there, it's painful. How do I get rid of it? How do I handle it? How do
Yeah.
how do I live through it the best way possible where you learn at the other end of it rather than you're broken at the other end?
And then you you learn from it to give yourself a better structure so that you can, like this morning, me realizing, okay, I needed to spend at least 5 minutes just
Right, or even 3
centering.
minutes. Even 3 minutes would have done it.
A few minutes, like instead of
Right,
hopping out of bed,
anything.
throwing on a coat and racing out the door, like half asleep. It's like, nope, I need to be at least say a few gratitudes, like get in my
Right.
happy zone before I head out there in the world. Like you were talking about attracting energy to yourself. You attract energy to yourself too.
Right. And more people will honk at you and more people will yell at you. But it's not even so much of getting in your zone. It's also about putting a protective shield around you so that you don't get that much thrown at you. The shield will protect it. So there's the inner protection and then there's the outer protection. And
Mm-hmm.
having a shield around you is, let's say, 40%. And then centering yourself and being able to be more calm on the inside. If you have both of those, it's a lot. It's very
Oh,
powerful. I would
beautiful.
say it would take about 50%. I that scenario that you described, I was a single mom with 2 girls, and the alarm didn't go off a lot of times. And I know exactly what you're talking about. Jumping out of bed like that can ruin your entire day. It
Yes.
really could.
And I had to do a big reset,
Right.
because I had to ride the wave and have
Right.
the whole emotional experience, because underneath the anger is sadness, right? So I had to
Right.
go through that whole experience and then come out to the other side and go, okay, resetting my day with Tippy.
Exactly. Yeah. And this is also
Yeah.
something that you have to do that sometimes you'd rather not do it at that moment because you're not ready for it emotionally.
But I know better than to stuff it now, because if you
Right.
stuff it, if you're like, well, I can't have this emotional experience right now because I have to go to
I'm
work.
busy.
I'm busy. It's like, no, that doesn't work either, because then you cause yourself disease in your body because you didn't process it. So
And what happens is
unfortunately,
you really do get diseases
you
from it.
really do. You get unbalanced. Well,
Yeah.
great. Oh, well, I loved this, Tippy. I really appreciate all your wisdom. I know we're
Thank
over
you.
time a little bit. I know you got somebody
Yeah.
waiting on you.
That's
So,
okay. They can wait. It's
so now
not snowing outside.
they're wait for you to finish your interview.
No,
So,
they're an hour early. They're
oh, they're
literally an
way
hour
too
early.
early. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so we're living interconnected, aren't we?
Yes. Yes, we are. Thank you
So,
so much. It's been a lot of
yeah.
fun. I
And
really appreciate it.
the show notes have a link to your book on Amazon. Once again, it's called Wake Up and Plan for Roses. If you want to read about Tippy's experience and all that she learned and all that she shares, you just got a little taste of it here. You might want to go buy her book and check it out, and and get some good advice about how to plan for roses, rather than, I'm going to make this your quote, worrying is planning to destroy your life. Such a good quote. I'm going to put that out there for you guys so you remember too. Worrying doesn't do any good. Planning for roses is much better.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If anybody has any questions and would like to ask me if they're the kind of person that I can help, or if they have the kind of issue that I can show you how to get out of that maze, you can actually email me. I will take emails. I do have too many emails. It might take me a day or two, as you know, to get back to you, but I will get back to you. It's tippytalkshow@gmail.com.
Wonderful.
And Tippy is spelled Tippy.
And people, you can also comment here on the thread, and I'll make sure that Tippy becomes aware of those questions as well. If you want to comment, if you're seeing this on YouTube or you're seeing this on the Facebook page, wherever you see it, we'll be happy to get those questions answered.
Thank you. Have
Okay,
a
awesome.
great day, and I hope you recentered yourself and are able to embrace
Much
it.
better. Thank you so much. And you guys have a wonderful day out there, and hopefully you got some good tips from this. Bye,
Thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.